You're watching Talk with Audrey. Welcome back. According to the Centers for Disease Control, people living with respiratory diseases such as chronic obstructive pulmonary disease are among the most affected by the COVID-19 pandemic due to an increased risk for severe illness and hospitalization. Well, there's a new survey that was developed and conducted by GlaxoSmithKline in partnership with the American College of Chest Physicians and the COPD Foundation that suggests that the pandemic has motivated at least 1 in 3 people with COPD to actively manage their disease. Joining me to talk about the survey, Dr. Thomas Corbridge, a pulmonologist and GSK medical expert, Jan, a COPD patient, and Justin, a COPD caregiver. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Let me start with you, Dr. Corbridge. COPD is a high-risk disease in this pandemic. What did you learn from the survey?
Well, you're exactly right. This has been a wake-up call for our COPD patients because just as you mentioned, if a COPD patient gets COVID, they're at increased risk of worse outcomes. And so this has helped us to double down on, designing every strategy we know to keep people from getting COVID. And this would include the usual guidances of hand washing, face masks, social distancing, but also to craft an individual treatment plan, empower our patients to stick with that plan, because this is the best way we can keep people out of the hospital for COPD flares. One of the more interesting findings from the survey, from my point of view, is that there still is a communication gap between patients and their providers. And by that, I mean, a lack of understanding of where patients are on their journey. And the survey showed us we need to do better here. On the patient side, we're looking for an honest accounting of where they truly are. Don't underreport. Be honest and open about how breathless you are, how COPD is affecting your daily life, your emotions as well. And on the provider side, we need to do better and do our due diligence, ask good probing questions in non-judgmental ways to create really an open and honest and trusting relationship to narrow the gap that was identified in this survey.
You mentioned that there were some gaps in communication between people with COPD and their physicians. What can patients and caregivers do to have more productive conversations with their doctors?
Yeah, well, certainly patients can plan for visits, whether they're face-to-face or televisits currently, by writing down the questions they may have, cataloging exactly how they feel in as honest a way as they can, so that they come prepared. If there's a caregiver, we love that, because that's another set of ears, another lens to look through to get a sense of where patients truly are. So preparing for visits is important. Physicians also need to understand their need to really engage, be non-judgmental, ask those good probing questions.
Jan, how has COVID-19 impacted the way you're managing your COPD?
It has impacted me dramatically, along with over half of the people that were took that survey. It impacted the point that our management became very difficult. Managing the disease became very, very difficult. We had become afraid. We were at the point of almost like no return. We didn't want to leave the house. We didn't want anyone to come in. But then we found out after a while, or I did, and a lot of us did, that there was an awakening with this COVID. We could let it take us completely out, or we could get as close as we could to normal with managing the disease by speaking to our doctors and going in and sitting down and having a conversation as to what to do, get into support groups, and empower ourselves with information. Therefore, it could help us manage the disease better.
For people with COPD, what would you suggest they do to improve their conversations with doctors or caregivers?
First thing you're going to do is you're going to go into your doctors and caregivers. You got to be honest. The doctors can't help us if we don't tell them what's going on. And so we have to be honest. We have to show our vulnerability. We have to say, Doc, what is it I need to do to feel better? What do you want me to do? Where can I go? Where can I get information? Is there a support group? Even though I can't get to rehab, is there a support group that I can go to? The doctors have that information. Also, Dr. here can tell you where you can go to get the information. Talk to other COPD patients. advocates like myself that you can make the phone call. That's all it takes. And to stay as active, don't give up. That's the main thing that I can say. And knowledge is power.
Justin, you're a caregiver. How has COVID-19 impacted the way that you care for your loved one?
Yeah, it's impacted myself as well as my dad. Like the survey shows, 91% of the physicians want the caregiver at the appointments. And with COVID right now, I'm not able to go to any of the appointments. I'm sitting in the car or I'm sitting at home getting secondhand information. And that's a big problem when you have a patient that doesn't understand really what the physician's talking about. So I encourage everybody to make contact with the physician and ask questions. Write a list of what you want to ask, because the patient isn't going to always know what to ask when they go to the doctor.
As a caregiver, Justin, do you notice at times things about your loved one's disease that they or their doctors see differently?
I do. My mom and I both, and I encourage you to, watch your loved one. You're going to see things like where they deteriorate that the physician may not see, because like when the patient goes to the doctor, they may say, I'm feeling great, because they don't want to feel like a burden. And so that's where the caregiver comes in and lets the doctor know how the patient really feels, and what they're seeing through their eyes.
COVID-19 has complicated things. Dr. Corbridge, where can we go for some more information?
I think for your listeners, I would direct them to copd.com. It's easy to remember, and it has really a wealth of information for patients, caregivers, or anybody interested in learning more about COPD.
Wonderful. I want to thank you, Dr. Corbridge, Jan, and Justin for joining me on the show today. I always say informed is empowered. So check out that website. It sounds like it's a team effort, but it's something that you don't have to do alone. Ask questions and get answers. I hope this interview has helped.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.